Hey, you guys, welcome to the Sky Studio Podcast After Hours. It's your girl, your bestie, your stylist, Tiffany Caballero. Listen, y'all, we tried to go live with this. I couldn't even tell you the ins and outs. All I know is that when we tried it, it didn't happen, but the show must go on. Tonight's episode has just been like so heavy on my heart, and it feels just so important that we're not gonna let things stop us here. That's not what we do here on the Sky Studio Podcast. So real quick, one time for the one time, if you have not liked, shared, subscribed, please take a second, do that right now. I don't want to have to get on to you guys. It's late, it's been a long day, don't make me do it, but if you have any love for me at all, go do that right now. Subscribe, like, share. Let's get into it, you guys. Truthfully, there is a pre-recorded episode and that will go up later. But something happened at the end of that episode where I felt like I knew God had put it on my heart, to share, share from where I'm at, share about my aunt, be transparent. And I feel like I kind of tiptoed a little, I put my toe in the water per se, and I didn't go all the way in, but tonight that's what it's for. We're just gonna go all the way in, and I'm just so thankful, honestly, that anyone would listen at all, but that God would continue to hand me opportunities to heal out loud, to bring you guys in on this journey. We're recording here at my salon, and so the very thing that happens here in this chair, the opportunity that I get day in and day out to hear y'all's stories and be blessed by it, and receive hope just from seeing the way that you guys persist, is the same way that I want to be able to do that here. So here we go. This one is for my tia Ruthie Carillo, que en paz descanse. So when I met my aunt, who is married to, if any of my other tios are watching, I'm sorry, she was married to my very favorite Tio Noel, my Uncle Noel. And at the time, my family had, we had lost our house at the time, and it was kind of devastating. I was a teenager, maybe I was 15, 16 years old, and we had never lived anywhere really nice, and it felt like this was such a blessing from God, and we lived in a nice neighborhood. You weren't going to get your bike stolen in this neighborhood, and I don't know, life be lifing, and we lost the house, and so we moved in with my uncle, and at the time he had been going through a divorce, and he was living alone, and it's just the way that God lines everything up. So he now has this empty house, and we're in need of somewhere to stay, and so we move in with him. So at the time, he is a single man on the prowl. Just kidding. No, he was in his gym bag. Okay, he was doing good for himself. He had the long hair, and he started dating my aunt at the time. And I remember her coming around and just being she was such a sporty girl, if you will, and I just was not at the time. And I remember thinking she's the cool, she's a guy's girl, she's a cool chick, and I don't even know, I don't know that she's gonna one day be my very best friend and guide me through life itself. But I had started hair school, so I was 15, 16. I started hair school, and let me tell you about this woman. I would never let a 15, 16-year-old hack at my hair, but she did. And if she never did another thing for me, that in and of itself, this faith, I can't tell you, it could not be me. It could not be me. Call me vain, say what you will. You can practice on the mannequin. You're not going to practice on me, babe. You're not going to do it. But she would literally let me practice on her. And there wasn't a color we didn't do. Oh my gosh. I remember one time I had, y'all, there's a whole testimony. I had ran away from home, and what a freaking scandal. And I hadn't told my grandpa, and nobody knew. And I had been highlighting her hair, and the doorbell rang, and I think my grandpa had got there, and I'm just what in the telenovela heck is happening? Because I'm not ready to face him at this time. So I physically leave the premises. I don't remember any details other than I left her with foils in her hair. And if you've ever had highlights, there's a process time. That can't stay on forever. Breakage will happen. And I did her dirty, y'all. And I just remember texting her or calling her after, "Yeah, I'm so sorry. Go ahead and rinse it out. And I'll be by to fix it." And just little stuff like that. She had no reason to ever trust me at all to do her hair ever again. But I don't know. She was just so much love all the time. We went on to do many, many more colors after that. And I just remember that feeling like I'm in trouble. But she's got my back. I don't know what she told him. I don't know if she said she did her own highlights. Like, I genuinely don't know, but she always had my back. She went on to like marry my uncle, and they had their first baby, Adian Dallas Carrillo. And at the time, I'm like in my single girl phase, and I'm just like, never me. Like, I'm never gonna have kids, but thank you for blessing us with a baby so I don't have to have a baby. And I just remember being like, the love of a tia. Like, even though he's my cousin, like, I could not love him anymore if he's my own. And got to do like all the mommy stuff with her, but with a tia's love. So I didn't know. I didn't know what God had for me. I didn't know that like 2 years later I would then have Aubrey, but just like she was always like paving the way for me. So it's like walking through motherhood with her for the first time helped me walk through motherhood myself. And so be it like what car seat I needed to get, like she's like, you need to get this jogging stroller, because one thing we're going to be is fit moms. Like, we're going to be hot, we're going to be fit moms, okay? How else are we going to keep up with these kids? So like, I just remember her being like, you know, anything she could pass down, she did, even though like Adian's a boy and Aubrey was a girl. And I remember being so upset that Aubrey was a girl, because I don't have a big brother, and I always wanted a big brother. And so even though I was upset, like whenever the gender reveal, all the things, I'm like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know God had provided like a big brother for her in her big cousin. So like, even that was really special. So we kind of play this like tag team back and forth, like tag, she's it. It's her turn to have the baby. And she has my baby cousin, Victoria. And I don't know what in the baby swap happened, because Victoria is all princess and all sass, and it's all pink and rainbows, and it's like making my aunt sick. Like, this woman like likes to drink beer and watch the Cowboys and the Mavs, and just like you could not take her to a ball game like that. She wasn't gonna be cheering louder than the men there, and probably fight them too. So she's like, what do I do with all this pink and all this sass? And I'm like, what do I do with my Aubrey, my sportsy little girl? And like, it was just such a joy to be able to mother the girls together, because it was so much like, I'll do Victoria's hair and you teach Aubrey how to score a goal, you know? And I really think like, if it wasn't for her, she really encouraged me to let Aubrey be Aubrey. And I grew up in the very like, I had to have like the ruffly dress with the matching ruffly socks with like the matching little bows, and you sit there and you look pretty and you don't move. And so even if I wanted to copy paste my childhood experience like on my daughter, like, you will be girly, you will be prim and proper, like I can see so clearly how like my aunt was meant to like model that for me. Like, what happens when you just like let someone, you know, be their authentic self, the way that God created them to be. And she's like, no, let her play sports and let her get dirty and let her play with Adian. And I'm just like, fine. And Aubrey was like her girl for real. So that was really special, getting to mother together. And then tag my turn, I have Jace, and Jace is all boy, and he kind of completes our little family of 4. And I just remember like every step of the way, every step of my life, that she'd be like, okay, well, you got to get the kids in Mansfield ISD, like you got to move out here, or like inviting me to church. Like, I see so clearly how there's not like a part of my life today that she wasn't so like interwoven, and she didn't like make a way for me to follow like behind her. So I'm kind of going back and forth, back and forth. Let's back up before I had Jace. So back in 2018, I'm like a single mom, and I have Aubrey, and I remember like going through some of the hardest times in my life, because I was so afraid that like I failed, you know, I failed again. And like I got pregnant and I wasn't married, and now I failed because that didn't work. And like, I remember not even telling my mom that I had gotten separated at the time, and I moved into an apartment by myself. But I remember feeling like I could tell my aunt, because my aunt was my uncle's second wife. And so like, I knew she like embodied hope in and of itself, that like that's not the end of your story. Like, just because that didn't work, like, that's not the end of your story. And 'cause she's the best thing that ever happened to my uncle. And so at the time, like, I confided in her, and I felt like when I talked to her, when I'm like, here's all my mess, and like, oops, I did it again. And she was always just so much, like, she was a force, but she was grace. Like, she was going to tell me mis verdades, but it was going to land like a hug, like, every single time. Like, even if it's meant to slap me into shape, and it was like meant to like get me on the right path, like, it always landed like a hug. And I think that's like such a gift, because I think people are either like one or the other. It's either like all fire and you're like, oh, that hurt, or you're like, it's all candy, you know. And she was perfect at doing both. And so even in that, I felt like over and over again, she's like my safe place, my person, just this undeniable source of love. So she invites me to come to church. And even at the time, like, I had grew up in church, but spent like 10 years just far away from God, wilding out, doing what she wanted. I was out here in these streets. I'm not going to lie. I was having a good time. But she called me out of darkness into light. And I remember going to that like summer slam service, and it was very like revival vibes, and just like experiencing the power of God. Like, there was this sign outside that said, your expectation affects your experience. And I remember thinking, like, I am at such rock bottom. Like, I cannot afford to feed this baby. Like, my car has been repossessed. Like, I can't even count how many times. And if I have to walk up to this third floor one more time with the baby on my hip, I'm gonna lose it. And I remember walking into that building, Living Church at the time, thinking like, my expectation is that my life changes. Like, and that was it. I wasn't like, oh, I hope I like the people. Oh, I hope it's good praise and worship. I was like, I need a life change. My daughter deserves a life change. And again, like, this is a door that like my aunt walked through so that I could run through. Just every step along the way, like, she would invite me to life group, and they would host it at their house. And I was in a life group with like all married couples, and I was like the only single mom. And even though I was so out of place, I was like in the right place. And she didn't make me feel like any type of way. Like, I remember showing up, I'm like, how are you gonna invite me? Like, I'm the only single chick here. And but it was home. It was home, and it was a safe place. And I was able to see godly marriage modeled in that room, and start to feel hope for like maybe what God could do for me, the way that he restored some of the marriages in that room and stuff like that. So there was that. Some of our favorite times together was definitely the gym. Listen, she called me out of 24-hour fitness into Lifetime Light, and it was worth the money, y'all. I hate to say it. It is. Like, she's like, the childcare here is immaculate, and like all the classes and all the things. And so I joined the gym with her. And when I tell you, like, I've had many a gym partners. I've been to many a gyms. She was on me like white on rice, like the night before. Like, did you register for class? What spot did you get? Like, what row are you on? This and that. Or like, I remember spin class would get so booked up ahead of time that like, if you wanted to get in on a Monday, like the Monday before at 11 a.m. you had to register. So she's like, set an alarm on your phone so you can register so we can get bikes and da-da-da. And just like, even the morning of, like, are you on your way? Are you here? Blah, blah, blah. Like this, I don't know. There was no one like her in my life. There's no one I can compare her to. There's no one that could hold a candle to like what she did for me. And I remember even like postpartum, after I had had Jace, like, you know, Mom, you know what it's like. Like, you done put on all the weight, and you're trying for the life of you to stay on a diet. You're trying for the life of you to make it to these classes. And yeah, she ends up taking me to spin class. And like, I'm gonna tell you about this. Like, spin class is like the club in a safe place with no alcoholic drinks, and no harm, no foul. Okay, like it's 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. You have no business doing all that. But then, like, I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling like I'm not just a mom anymore. You know, like, maybe she's still got it. And again, just, I would have never gone there on my own. Like, I would have never been like, let me try this. And she was always just like challenging me and pushing me, like, just do it, just do it. And like, no sooner did we finish that class, she's like, okay, now we're going to body pump. Like, we're gonna do 2 classes. And again, like, I know I'm a pretty self-motivated person, but like, even at that, she's like, andale, más, like, you can do more, like, let's go, animo. And she was so full of life. It's was such a special experience to like get to really do life with her. Like she was not the kind of aunt that I like saw at Christmas and Thanksgiving. She was like my person. And all that to say, coming up on a year, so like a year ago that we lost her. I think it was also in 2018. She got diagnosed with breast cancer, and like I'm not going to be good at all the medical this, that, remission, whatever. All I know is that when she originally got diagnosed, I remember at the time feeling so like, me and Jose were in this like crappy 1-bedroom apartment, and I was like screaming and just like, he's like, what, did they give her like a month to live? Like, you know, he's so practical, and he's like, she's gonna be okay, like medicine and science and this and that. And okay, I'm thinking of like Natural Libre, where he's like, I don't believe in God, I only believe in science. Like, that's Jose. Well, that was Jose. And he's like, everything's gonna be fine. But I don't know, I just remember in my gut feeling so like, then why don't I feel like it's gonna be fine? And she was, you know, God healed her, and she went through the process and everything. And that's why it was such a shock last year when like her health started to decline, because I'm just like, what is happening? I felt like to come to a point now, like spiritually in my faith, where like my faith was so strong, and I'm just like, okay, well, whatever it is, whatever health issues that have come against her, like surely God is for her. And you know, I wasn't like the broken single mom that she invited to church in 2018. Now I was like the prayer warrior God always designed for me to be. And so like I just remember like every step of the way like praying like I've never prayed before. I remember being on the hospital floor, and just like my hands like over her body, and like, you know, she had the scarf on her head, and like her body was so frail, and I just like, you could not tell me that he wasn't going to heal her. And like when people walked in and they saw her, like she smiled, and like you would not imagine a story where God doesn't heal her because of her faith alone. And so yeah, just watching her faith stay strong while her health like faded before our eyes, like it was both like the most painful and beautiful thing I've ever seen, because I don't know if that was me, that I would be able to like stay strong the way that she stayed strong. And like since then I've wrestled with so many thoughts, you know, like I told my, like talking with my mom now, I'm like, then what was the point? What was the point of having so much faith? What was the point of believing and interceding and fasting if like he took her anyways? And I don't know that there's an answer. All I know is that like, you know, the Bible tells us that like better is one day in his courts than 1,000 elsewhere. And like, she just modeled that, like her life was so much better. Like what she imparted on us, like would not have been made possible, like had she not stood so firm in her faith, like in the face of like death itself. So a lot of what I've been going through since losing her is up until this point, up until my 32 years of life at the time, like I've never lost anyone. So like even processing those feelings looks like the first time to me. It looks like I have no context. I have nothing to draw back on. I have no other experience. Like of all the traumatic things I've ever been through, like I don't have anywhere to pull from. And so, you know, initially, like everything is such a blur, and it's all about, you know, like first and foremost, like the kids and my uncle, and just like trying to be as much love and support as I can be, and all those little like details, and just kind of playing my role, like where God, however you would have me show up, is just the initial response. And what did I say? Like hindsight is 2020, and I look back and I think like a year ago today, like I had just gotten engaged, and I have like the post where like we had pictures done and stuff at the proposal, and you know there's 100 likes and there's 200 comments, and like the very last comment on there is my aunt's comment, and she said, I've been praying for this. And like everyone's comments were nice, but like her comment meant the most, because like what greater love is that than like someone is interceding for you, someone is talking to God about you. Like, to me, there's no greater love than that. And like I remember I screenshot her comment, and so like we had just gotten engaged and then she passed, and I'm kind of like, I am such a doer that I felt like I just kind of took that, like, my aunt would have wanted me to get married and she said she's been praying for this. What is the point of postponing it? And so like I go straight from kind of grieving to wedding mode. And I have a great group of friends at the time who are super supportive, and they're like, whatever you want to do. Like, if we're going to do this wedding, like they took over everything. There wasn't a thing I had to worry about. They took over everything. They're like, but if you want to wait, we can wait. And just like we moved forward. And so like, again, just looking back, I'm just like, I was so desperate to move forward, to be happy, to like not feel the weight of like what it was. And it kind of doesn't matter, because like the weight catches up to you eventually. And I wrestled with like, I remember going to the first spin class like without her, and she was not like a cheerleader, like a good job. Like, if she was ever behind me, she'd be like correcting my form, like, you can't be moving your hips like that, you gotta this, you gotta that, you gotta get in the saddle. And like I remember I could hear her, like I could still hear her voice, I could still hear her getting onto me, I could still like feel like her presence almost, like, 'cause she always sat in the same spot. And I remember thinking like, bro, do I just need to get a different gym membership? Like what? But I chose to stay. Like I still have a membership there, because I'm like, this helps me feel like attached still, like it's still a place, like her memory lives on. Like every time I'm there and I complete a workout, like I make her proud maybe. I remember there'd be times when from like one of the studios, you can kind of see down into like where the basketball court is, and at the time like the turf. And like had I finished a class and maybe I was like walking around there, I was on the phone or whatever, she would literally like knock on the glass and text me like, what are you doing? Get up here, come to class. And so like I remember like now she's passed, and like looking up in the glass and just feeling like I could still see her. Everything's been heavy, everything's been hard, and I think that I'm now coming to a point like a year later that because I didn't process, like it's still manifesting itself in other ways, like in other ways that like I feel a little out of control. And even so like 3 weeks ago was the anniversary of her passing, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna have this day, and I'm just gonna let myself feel what I feel, and I'm not gonna work. And my best friend Amanda took the day off with me, and like we hung out the first part of the day, and like everything was fine like while she was with me, and then like until she wasn't. Low-key, I blame you. Like, why did you leave me by myself? But once I allowed myself to feel the things that I feel and have the outbursts and kind of spiral a little bit, I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm so clearly not okay, and I'm tired of pretending that I'm okay. And I think that I'm really good at like outwardly, like the show must go on, because that is true. Like it is true. Like you think these babies woke up the day after my aunt passed and they didn't need 3 meals a day and they didn't need butts wiped and like that. The show absolutely must go on. But yeah, when I came to the point very here recently that I'm like, I'm looking at myself and how I've been dealing with things and all the wrong things I've been doing, and just like veering off the path, and just like emotionally I'm not okay. Like even though outwardly I keep trying to present like I'm okay, my husband went ahead and was like, we gotta do what we gotta do. Like I can't help you, and I would love to be able to save you, but I can't. And like I'm in therapy now, and like I've only been to like a handful of sessions. I have another session on Friday, but just like already like sitting in front of a trained professional and processing things out loud. Like, I remember one of the first things I told her, like, as I started talking about my aunt, she's like, oh, so she was like a mother figure. And I never thought about that. Like, I don't know, I didn't think about her like that. And so she's like, yeah, that's no wonder it hurts the way it hurts. Like, it's like you lost a mother figure in your life. And like, even that in of itself, I'm just like, I just keep coming back to a point where the more open that I am, the more willing I am to admit like where I'm really at, the more healing I'm experiencing. And like, I am so far from a perfect person. But I felt like God put it in my heart to share this and to like invite you guys into this space too, where like I'm on here on camera being naked, honestly. And I would invite you to do the same, like with the people that God has placed in your life, with a trained professional. And there is like no shame in that. Like, I think the shame comes from a place of like hiding. Like, the more I try to hide it and to mask it, like, there's no healing in that. There's only hiding in that. I feel like you can either be healing or you can be hiding, and like, you pick which one. And I think that maybe I got really good at hiding. Like, I love makeup, like, but I'm committed to healing. And in that, like, my healing is not just for me, you know, my healing is for my kids, my healing is for the people I love, my healing is for anyone that I come in contact with. And I just like refuse to let my story look like this thing happened and it killed me, the end. Like, that can't be my story, and that's not your story either. And I just thank you guys for logging on, for listening, for leaning in. And I really, I hope to see you guys in the comments. Maybe share the name of your loved one so we can honor them too. And if you're walking through grief right now, I would just encourage you, first and foremost, just to like be honest. Like, you can't be honest with anyone else unless you're honest with yourself. Be honest with God, be honest with people you trust. If it comes to that, like, be honest with a trained professional. And I can't say that I'm on here sharing from like a success story. Like, I'm on here sharing from like, I'm in process and I'm vulnerable enough to like let you guys into where I'm at in the process. And I think that like, you have to start somewhere. So I'm starting here, and I'm really excited to be on this journey with you guys. And like, a year from now, 2 years from now, like, maybe look back at like, remember the time when you went live and you just spilled all your guts, and like, but maybe that's where it starts. Like, if you're gonna, like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And so like, this might be wildly like a wild way to break the chains, but why not? Why not do something so out of your comfort zone that you position yourself to change? You position yourself to experience something that you've never experienced. And I think for me, to come to a place where I thought like my faith was so strong, and I'm a prayer warrior, and God has like brought me, you know, out of darkness into light, and to find myself like, I didn't know that my grieving looked like maybe I don't trust God anymore. Like, I journaled about that 2 days ago. Like, maybe that's what's been happening. So now I'm functioning as an individual who doesn't trust God with my future, doesn't trust God with my marriage, doesn't trust God, doesn't trust that he has good plans for me, because your track record with me right now looks like you didn't have good plans. Because why would you leave those kids here without a mom? Like, why would you leave my uncle here without the love of his life? Why would you leave me here without my person, you know? And God is so big that he can take all the smoke. Like, he can take all that. Like, he wants all that. Like, I feel like the more that I give him all that, the more like he meets me. And there's not like a bow and happy ending, and like, he's revealed it to me like, this is why it took her. Like, it's not that at all, but it's just like, my relationship with God grows deeper the more that I'm like, this is what it really is. And so I would encourage you to do the same. Again, like, if it just starts with like you and you and you and God and you and your journal, like, start somewhere. I believe in you. I'm praying for you. If you have prayer requests, put it in the comments. If you're currently grieving right now, put it in the comments. If you're believing God for healing for a loved one, like, I would still pray for you. Like, I would. Like, I don't look back and be like, well, I wish I hadn't been interceding day and night for her. Like, not at all. Like, she's the most beautiful person I ever met, and I'm just thankful that like what she left me with, like the kind of like rock she was, like I pray to be that to anyone I come in contact with. Be a safe place, be someone that like you can come at me with all your ugly, and like you're not gonna, that's not gonna scare me. It's not gonna scare me, you know, your drinking problem, your addiction, your like people confess all their sins here in this room, and like I don't back down. I'm not like, oh, I cannot book your next appointment because like, girl, you're a mess. No, I'm like, you better be back in 6 weeks because I want to love you harder. Like I want to love you through this. And I feel like she modeled that for me. I'm picking up this mantle. I want to model that for like anyone I've come in contact with. Not that I'm perfect, and I've hurt plenty of people. But yeah, that's the best I can do for now. And I just want to challenge you guys to continue to press in and take your pain, let God use it for good. Take your pain, let it serve a purpose, because you're worth it. Love y'all.